Hello everyone, I'm Brian, welcome back, let's go continue.
So the next question is from Uma. The question goes, life in cities have become a nightmare for girls. Groping, leering, lewd comments in public transport are a norm that girls have to put up with and unfortunately don't raise their voice against. What to do about such upsetting civilizational evils?
It's an unfortunate reality. At that moment, I know what is the reaction and what is it that we feel like doing. That's a different matter. But we must look at the larger picture. Why? Why is such a thing happening? See, this is because we are a society in transition. We have sort of given up our traditional ways of doing things. We have not caught up with another way of doing life totally. We're just hanging in between for too long. In the sense, probably 30 to 40% of the young people that you see in the cities are migrants, they've come from elsewhere. One thing is, when you're in a new place, you can afford to be irresponsible. They won't behave like that in their own village, okay? Because there are consequences. Here they are new. And another thing we have to address, if we have to look at it compassionately, is if he was in his village, his mother, his mausi, his atte, somebody would be talking, see, we're going to get you married to that girl, see that girl? That is going to be your wife. Whether it's going to happen or not, that's not the point. He thinks there is a solution for his hormonal struggles. Yes, it's a reality, come on. Between the ages of 15 and 25, this is at its peak. So, even if there is no physical solution, there must be a solution in thought and emotion that he knows that, this year you're going to get married, no, this year the crop is not good, okay, you'll get married next year, they may postpone it 5 years, but he is living in that comfort that there is a solution for him.
But I do wonder if eventually he's gonna say, this is 4 years in a row that you've said this and nothing has come of it. What's gonna be any different now, And I'm trying to think, like, in terms of US, because there seems to be a lot of similarities. Obviously, we're all human beings, so we're going to have a lot of things in more similarities than not. And obviously, again, if you're a teenage boy, no matter where you're born, generally speaking, your hormones are going to act upon you. Now, don't get me wrong, some are a little bit stronger than others. And then there's a little bit of a cultural influence into it, but still, nonetheless, if you're a boy, you're a boy, no matter where you were born. But I see issues in the United States, and they talk specifically about cities over here, and it's the same thing actually in the United States. It's not. I guess you could say, I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. I don't live in the big city, so I don't want to, honestly. Too many people. And crazy people, too. But I can see similar issues. And I'm wondering if it's going down the same path. And again, it's remarkable to see that Western and Eastern, even though we're different cultures, we are human beings and we're so much alike still. And don't get me wrong, like I had an expectation of being different because different cultures. But then I never thought about the human aspect, of the fact that we're still human. Obviously, I know we're human, but like, because we're human, we're so much more similar than we are different. And the issue is, I want to see if he says anything about it first.
You take that guy and transplant him into Bengaluru city. He's just a wild creature. He's living somewhere, 10 people in one room. Daytime one set sleeps, nighttime another set sleeps in the same room. That's a living conditions, I'm saying. And there is no family, there is no any kind of balancing factor in him, there is no society for him, it's just dog-eat-dog world for him. And for his hormonal stuff, there is no solution. Nobody is telling him that girl is for you, His mind is going crazy. He watches movies, these days pornographic stuff is all over the place, he's watching it on the phone. So he thinks this is what every girl wants. He is unable to think beyond that. You must understand his problem. See, first of all, what puberty or adolescence means is, see, when you were, let's say 10, 12 years of age, you looked at somebody, they were just fine. Suddenly you became 14, 15, your intelligence got hijacked by your hormones. You look at somebody, every bump on their body looks like a world by itself. Yes, this is the reality. Now, that guy who is transplanted from a village to here, and his idea of a woman was his mother or his mausi or somebody, now he's seeing young girls here, the kind of girls that he only saw in movies maybe. Now, one drop of alcohol, the guy will pounce on you. Little more push he needs. All these rapes and things you're seeing is just this. Already he's out of control, he's somehow holding himself, put 1 or 2 drops of alcohol in his mouth, boom, he'll go crazy.
Boom.
So this is an unfortunate situation, it's a cruel situation for him, it's a cruel situation for those who are victimized by him. But we are a society in transition, it's time we address our issues directly. Don't go on thinking it'll get solved if we close our eyes and sit.
Great, perfect spot. Kinda, I guess. So, great. He talked about how, you know, he all of a sudden he wakes up, not wakes up, all of a sudden he's transported to a world where there's a whole bunch of girls. And the thing is, and his hormones are just going crazy. But the thing is also the fact that in this big city, it's something that I see in the red pill community, where these girls, you watch, like, I don't want to call out any YouTube channels, but you watch these YouTube channels, you see these ladies in these big cities, and they're sleeping around with so many men, and they're all complaining about the men, and then you have these men who don't get a chance to sleep with any women because no women will give him a chance. And this goes to the fact that there's a statistics out there right now that I think they did a poll on how many women, how many men and women haven't slept with, or haven't been in a relationship or haven't slept with the opposite sex. I think about 33% of men haven't had sex in the past year or two, and I think women is significantly lower. So this goes to and mind you, I believe, even though it's about 50-50, I think there are still slightly more females in the world in general than there are males, because World War I, all the wars, just put it that way. World War II especially, I think Germany, I think that's like 74 million males, strictly males, soldier males that died. Then you had civilian casualties, of course, which is about, I want to say 50-50, but that also, I think worldwide was about the same too. But you also got to take into account there's probably children, both sex, older people, both sex, and then generally speaking, the middle between the old and the young women who probably passed away too with that. So anyways, you have all of a sudden these females who have all the 8s, 9s, and 10s of men who are rich that are willing to sleep with all of them, no problem, and this women wanting to sleep with them because they want the 8, 9, and 10 that are rich, thinking that they can lock him down. When the 8, 9, and 10 that are rich men sees all these women that he can sleep with because they all want to sleep with him. And then all these women who want to sleep with 8, 9, and 10 sees them and wants to sleep with them. And then doesn't really see anyone else. Again, not all women are like this, not at all. But you tend to see this a bit of a growing thing in big cities. United States is happening. It's not all the women. And I'm wondering if it's the same thing in just big cities in general, just all across the world. Because women have options in these big cities because there are a lot of men there. Where men, not really. Now, don't get me wrong, there's definitely going to be some amazing women and men who will get together who are not rich at all. who just found each other when they were young before corruption or whatever happened in the social media stuff. But anyways, and I think that's what's kind of potentially is happening too, where in the United States you have this group of men they call incels that who can't find women because they're maybe 7s, 5s, and 6s, and they can't find a woman because these women's are 4 and above are all looking at the 8, 9, and 10 men. 8, 9, and 10 men are willing to sleep with anyone up to like 5 and above or something like that. So yeah, and then you'll have these men who are just trying so hard, can't find anything, and then they just go crazy. I mean, again, I'm not going to blame the women for this necessarily, but because they have their own set of problems where they're sitting there like, oh, all the men are trash, and generally speaking, these women tend to be sleeping with the same men as all the other women. So that's their problem, and this is men's problem where you need to have some self-control. Me speaking about all this is very easy. Oh, have some self-control, obviously. Trust me, I know it's not easy. But I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know what you can do. Some people's hormones, some men's hormones are very strong that you can't even do other things because of it, and it kind of hinders you. Obviously, the easy solution, be enlightened. If you're enlightened, you won't have any of these issues, but until you get to that point, what can you do, And that's the thing, is like solutions, ultimate solutions is enlightenment. But until you're there, what can you do? What is the solution until you get to that point? Practicing it? Well, you can't. You have to do something about this problem that's bugging you and preventing you from being enlightened because it has taken over your life. So don't get me wrong. Like, it's a bit complicated. Obviously, you shouldn't be falling for this kind of stuff because the path to enlightenment is to remove all of that. But sometimes, kind of like what Lakhani says about people who are who gets into meditation, they try to make the environment comfortable so they can meditate. It's kind of like that. If you're not enlightened, obviously things are going to bug the crap out of you, and you're going to have to set the mood for yourself. That the air is nice, that there's not loud noises, that you're not itching, or whatever may be causing the problem. That way you can proceed, you get your way there. I hope that makes sense.
It doesn't get solved. So, as a society, we must debate. Are you going to go back to 16 years of age, you can get married? Or are you going to go back to a place where you will discuss and see how to conduct this society? After all, there are young people, they have their needs. How are you going to address this? We need to directly, head-on, we must approach it, not slinking around it, not hiding behind religious books and this and that. You need to address it. This is the issue, how to deal with it. If you don't do that, this is what they're doing. See, one thing is, when such things are done to you, how horrible you feel is one thing. But I want you to also think, how degenerate does he feel doing these things? There is a certain degeneration. He can only do it when he believes he cannot be caught, isn't it? Because there is a certain degeneration of mind, essentially because it is just like a hungry child grabbing something and running away to eat. He is in the same mode with his sexuality. So we need to address this. Very important we address it. The sooner we address it, the better it is.
And that's the thing that I was thinking, if I were to explain to a woman what is a man's sex drive, the best thing I can come up with that they can relate to is like hunger. Now, don't get me wrong. You can go without sex forever and not die, versus where food you'll die. But it's the sensation, the how do I say, the hunger, the sensation, the word. I hope you know what I'm trying to say. That it's similar. That you just if you don't eat, the hunger will grow to the point where you're going to grab something eventually. Now, interesting he said about 16 years ago, or sorry, married at 16. And it makes me wonder now, like, if I think back in the past, which I can't really do, the past, 20 years ago, no, but more along the lines back when we were in smaller groups of not civilization, perhaps beginning of civilization. There was, generally speaking, always a man to a woman. Because once a man and a woman's taken, they're kind of outside, they're out of the pool, and you generally don't, mess with a married woman or a married man. So, and then he goes to the next batch, or the next man and woman, next man and woman, next man and woman. But generally, the population is about 50-50, so generally there's always a one man to one woman. So the sexual needs are generally met, so there's not this sexual buildup. But now, like what he was talking about, where we kind of, in the United States, or maybe in the Western world, where sex is kind of pushed back, you could say. Even though I'm sure young people are doing it anyway. But generally speaking, it seems like it's been pushed back to like 18 or something like that. And then with this party culture, and then with the big cities, these 18-year-old men don't have 18-year-old women to go out with, because these 18-year-old women are looking at maybe 25 to 35-year-old men, because generally speaking, women like older men because they're more established. They have the resources, they can provide, they can go out and fly somewhere. Whereas when you turn 18, you have nothing, you're broke. You're trying to find money to go to college sometimes, or still live in your mother's basement or something like that, So different time period. No longer being married so young. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Obviously, I mean, our brain's not developed until 25, so it's really a tough one for sure. And our men's biology hasn't really changed too much.
Thank you, Sadhguru. We have questions from the audience now. We will be taking questions from the audience.
I think I talk too much.
Logistic members, please help the audience.
You don't look like Mount Carmel.
There is a question on top as well. Yes, please address it to Sadhguru.
Namaste, Sadhguru.
Namaskaram.
I'm Harshita. My question to you is, what do you think about the concept of hell or heaven? Hell or heaven? What do you think about that concept?
I heard it. I was just trying to figure out where you are, what… Is it heaven, or if you jump, it'll be hell for sure.
I won't do that.
I always thought this to be ridiculous when I was younger. And why do I say that? It's because why, when you disobey God, that Satan would punish you? Shouldn't he be happy because he was cast away from God? But the explanation that I've heard from religious people is that Satan still follows God. So therefore, he punishes people who disobeys God. Satan is still part of God. But then again, when you look at the stories in the Bible, which I've only heard a few, very few, that Satan is against God. So why would Satan be punishing you for disobeying God when he should be praising you because you disobeyed God? Makes no sense.
So, listen.
Thank you, Harshita.
See, those who have made a hell out of themselves are always aspiring to go to heaven. Yes. If I am sitting here and I'm blissed out, totally, look at my eyes. It looks like I'm always stoned. Yes, never touched a substance, but this is the most complex chemical factory in the world. Is that so? Do you agree with me? The question is only, are you a great CEO or a lousy CEO of this chemical factory? If you are a great CEO, you would keep this all the time, blissed out, right chemistry. If you're a lousy CEO, you produce bad chemistry and you think it's because of this one or that one or that one. So, for some reason people are feeling miserable. Their chemical factory is not going the way they want. They can call it sadness, they can call it misery, they can call it depression. I know in Bangalore a whole lot of people are against me, continuously trying to troll me because of depression business. I'm saying again, for those activists, I'm saying again, if you know how to manage your chemistry, your depression will go. Even if you go to the doctor, he's only going to give you chemicals, isn't it? So do you think the pharmaceutical industry that they're using there has better chemical structures than my body? Do you believe that? That means you're a vested interest, you have investments in pharma industry. So, when this is feeling like hell, we hope that somewhere when we go up there, how are you feeling out there? That everything will be fantastic. What's her name? Arpita? Harshita. Harshita. Harshita means, blissed out. So, this happened. This happened in Alabama. You know Alabama state? It's a special state. It's a different kind of state, hardcore religious state. So in a Sunday school teacher was going all out, full rhetoric, full force. And unfortunately, the audience were not like you, they were all tiny tots. It's a catch them young policy.
Yes.
In his full rhetoric, he was going and children were sitting like this. Suddenly he stopped for dramatic impact. He stopped and he said, "What do you have to do to go to heaven?" Little Mary in the front bench stood up and said, "If I mop the church floor every Sunday morning, I will go to heaven." Absolutely. Another little girl out there said, If I share my pocket money with my less privileged friend, I will go to heaven. Correct. Another boy said, "If I help people who are in need, I will go to heaven." Correct. Little Tommy in the back bench stood up and said, "You gotta die first." Well, that's a qualification. If you want to go to heaven, you got to die first. So when you die, depending on your culture, we will either bury you or burn you or cut you and throw you to the birds. Yes, one of these things we will do, depending on your culture. So one thing is very clear, you will put your body back into the earth and it's a very eco-friendly thing to do. If you've not done anything in your life eco-friendly, that is one act which will be good. You should not take your body and go. You must put it back into the earth because this belongs to the earth. So you left your body and went to heaven. You know what is in heaven, Harshita? No? You know?
Okay. It's an interesting question because I thought about this one. I was thinking, it's like, man, okay, if you go to heaven, I never thought about the state you'll be in when you go to heaven. Like, do you go in the moment you die, so however your body was? Do you go in, what about the children, or what about the people who is quadriplegic or brain dead or something like that, So I never thought about that until someone else did, so I won't say that part. But I've thought, you go in as your best self, whatever that happens to be. And I was thinking, it's like, man, you go in there and you're blissed out all the time, you're always happy. It's like, oh man, if that's the case, it kind of sucks. You can't. You're against your will. You're always happy. You can never be anything else other than happy, no matter what. So you just imagine in a society where everyone's just smiling and always so happy. How weirded out would you be? It's like, this is kind of crazy. That's the way I thought it was, honestly.
Okay. So, what is in heaven? In Hindu heaven, food is very good. If you're a foodie, you must go to Hindu heaven. Nala himself will cook personally for you. He's the greatest chef. If you go to another kind of heaven, white gowned ladies will float around in the clouds. If you like that kind of ambience, you go there. If you go to another heaven, you will have virgin problems. If that's what you're looking for, you go there. But you went there without the body. What do you do with good food and virgins, I'm asking? Hello?
And you have a spirit
You
body.
don't have a body? These are all bodily problems, isn't it? No body, what do you do with food and virgins? In the Hindu way of life, there is a thing, up there in heaven, there is an Akshaya Patra. How much ever you eat, food will always be full. Well, when you go without a body, food will always remain full in the vessel. And they will always remain virgins. So, we have been doing this for a long time. This was one simple way. You must understand the managerial skills of the traditional people. This was a way of managing humanity. You're miserable. You… Don't worry, when you go there, everything will be okay. Solace. So if it is a psychologist saying these things, it's okay. But you really made them believe everything is going to be better somewhere, you can mess up your life here, that's not good. Somebody is in deep state of suffering, don't worry, when you go and sit in God's lap, everything will be okay. It's a psychological tool. It's fine when people are in extreme states. But don't brand it and sell it everywhere because it's not going to work like that. So, now heavens are collapsing in people's minds. Why there is such an increase of consumption of alcohol and drugs on the planet is mainly because still people are not articulating it, but in their minds, heavens are collapsing.
Interesting way of putting it. I do believe the way I translate this is the fact that, and it's something that I've heard too from the religious people, is that, you know, people are becoming less and less religious, so they're becoming more and more wild, less conservative, more risk takers. So that's why you have the sex revolution. You have women who are just sleeping around with a whole bunch of different men, and this is the contribution to the depression of women because they slept with top tier guys, and that's all they want now. Because, you know, I slept with this level 10 guy who has money. I can find another level 10 guy with money. And as she gets older, and as she sleeps around with more men, because, you know, she thinks she can lock them in but can't. Now she's 35, 40, still trying to lock in a 10, and now she's getting desperate, and she's now looking for someone who's maybe a 7 or a 6. And now she's regretting it and hating that person because, or hating men in general, because she didn't lock in a 10. Oh, and way off topic, but that was part of something else. But yes, and then the collapse of religion. Religion was kind of, like he's saying, like a way of controlling humanity so that we don't go crazy. The freedoms that we have, and religion is kind of collapsing in the West a bit. And now people are kind of just doing what they want, and sad truth of the matter is there are a lot more depressed people because there's no structure in their life, and they got the freedom that they want, but they can't handle the what's the problem? Not the problem. They can't handle the outcome. They have the freedom, but they can't handle the, I can't think of the word, action and result. They can't handle the result of their action, their freedom, and the consequences of their freedom. There we go, that's the word, jeez. They can't handle the consequences of their freedom, and they're being depressed.
How many of you are thinking, one day when I go to heaven, everything will be fantastic? Not many of you, I'm sure. But in the previous generation, if you had looked, the numbers were quite significant. So heavens are obviously collapsing in human mind, because if you ask 3 questions, all the 3 heavens will collapse. Yes?
3 heavens.
So now once human intellect became active, inevitably it'll ask questions. If you ask questions, these things will collapse. So people are trying to have alternatives right here. that they're getting drunk and drugged right here. So this is the moment. All of you young people must understand this. At this point of time, if we don't raise human consciousness in a big way, if you don't teach people how to sit here absolutely blissed out by your own nature, believe me, in another 50 to 70 years' time, at least 90% of the human population will be on some kind of chemical. To be healthy, they need chemicals. To be peaceful, they need chemicals. To be joyful, they need chemicals. For everything, they need chemicals. I want you to know this, 70% of US population is on prescription medication. The most affluent nation on the planet.
Now mind you, prescription doesn't mean psychological prescription. This means prescription in terms of breathing, cholesterol, blood pressure, depression, just anything to deal with human problems. I would not doubt that to be true.
Why does individuals and society seek affluence? Because the first step of affluence is choice of food, choice of nourishment. The second step of affluence is choice of lifestyles. The most incredible variety of food is in front of you and enormous lifestyle choices are there, and in this society, 70% of the people are on pharmaceutical, prescription medication. This clearly shows if you do economic development without also cultivating human consciousness, our wealth will become our biggest problem. So we are still on the threshold of economic development. This is the time where we have to invest in evolving human consciousness. For all this previous question, the problems that you asked and everything, fundamentally evolution of human societies need to happen. But there is no such thing as a society, there's just you and me. It's only individual people. If you and me evolve, society has evolved, world has evolved, isn't it? Society is only abstract, it is actually all of us individuals, isn't it? So if individual evolution in terms of becoming conscious doesn't happen, you will see 90% of the population will fall into chemicals. When they fall into chemicals, I'm not talking about this as a moral thing. If 90% of the human population goes on constant usage of chemicals, the next generation that we produce will be a generation which will be much less than who we are. And that's a crime against humanity. Every generation, the next generation that comes, must be at least one notch better than who we are. If we produce a generation less than us, then we have committed a crime against humanity, we have taken humanity backwards. And that is what will happen if chemical usage multiplies and it is going wild. This is the time to raise consciousness, that's why we are here with you.
I'm gonna pause it right there. And 100% what Sadhguru said there, it's very genius. Because the way I look at it now, especially in America, people in Western nations in general, but obviously I think people in developed areas, not necessarily the country has to be developed, but the city itself can be developed. So I think it starts, of course, from development. So let me speak in terms of America first, or only really. So in America, you know, you have a lot of people that are complaining about things like equal pay, or equal something, or not equal, equal outcome, supposedly equal pay. But one thing they don't understand is, and complaining about all these things, sorry, I am going way off too many topics here. So they're complaining about a lot of stuff. The thing is though is that they have a lot of this already. They just don't know it. Relatively speaking, they have it so good. They complain that they're, I don't know what the right word is. They lack something, but they have no idea what they're lacking. You go to other countries who are not developed and compare to what they're suffering, what Americans are suffering, and it's by no means comparable. You know, some people complain that they're not getting paid more, and yet they're not producing more. They think they're getting underpaid, but in reality they're getting paid the same. Raise kids so much in comfort that there's no struggle for the kid. There's no telling the kid no. So this kid grows up spoiled. And then whenever they're ever told no for the first time, they go crazy because they've never been told no before. They cry, and the way to get yes is from their example with the parents. The parents told them no, and they cry and whine and they get it. So when someone tells them no, they just cry and whine. This is really where I'm trying to get at, actually. So basically, the kids, generally get what they want. When they are told no, they cry, they make a scene. They cry and whine, and then the parents give up and give them what they want. So now these kids who grow up, anytime they're told no, or anytime they want something and they can't get it, they cry and whine. So what you're having is these adult babies who think they're not getting what they want, who think they deserve more than what they really deserve, are crying and whining. They think they're suffering so much because they're not getting what they want and because they were told no, because they didn't get the position they want because someone else got it. Obviously, when someone else got it, it's because of whatever reason you can give it out there, not because they didn't work hard enough and the other person did. And this is what I genuinely believe. When you live in a society that's so prosperous, you could say, that it's so comforting and you're given everything that you want and you're never really told no, and if you're ever told no, you just cry and whine and then you get it. So that the lesson that you learn is that crying and whining gets you what you want. You develop adult babies. In America, there's no real issue with food, shelter, or anything like that. So everything, I won't say everything's provided. Obviously, there are people that are still homeless in America. But there's a lot of people who choose to be homeless, actually. There's homes provided for them, given for free. But because of the welfare system, that if you actually have a home or something, that it'll kick you out of the welfare system, so you actually have to work to get money. And these people don't want to do that, so they'd rather stay homeless and get free money, get free food, get free cell phone service, get free all this and that, and just stay homeless. But anyways, I'm going off tangent with that one too. But the whole point is, we're in the Western world, we're raising adult babies that if they don't get what they want, they cry and whine. Yeah, anyways, that's the end of this part. Going off with a little bit of a tangent, a bit much there. Anyways, if you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.